Hello RPG fans and welcome back to the kingdom. This is the next video in the series from a challenge run perspective where I review games that I've played and or done challenge runs of to determine if this game is challenge run worthy. For some challenge run examples, please check the description below for challenge runs that I have done. The categories that I'll be going over in this video include the platform that I am doing the review on, game difficulty settings, which includes actual game difficulty settings as well as the overall game's balance, game mechanics, which includes combat and non-combat, customization options, which includes menuing, variety of challenges, which includes types of challenge runs and boss fights / special encounters, and last but not least, replayability. And we will see if this game is challenge run approved. Reviewing Lost Sphear from a challenge runner's perspective. Lost Sphear released worldwide on January 23rd, 2018, and it's really hard to believe that it's been more than 6 years already since this wonderful game came out. And with its predecessor, I Am Setsuna, and just like this one, all of the features are available across all the platforms. So there's no particular platform that has more features or endgame content than any other. So the platform review, it's a +1 from me. When starting a new game, I am presented with options of easy, normal, and hard. So for actual game difficulty settings, this gets a +1. Now with game balance, this kind of depends on what kind of challenge run you are going to do for this game. If you are using all 3 people with no limitations or like a casual playthrough, the game could seem very easy. It also does get easier the more you understand the combat mechanics and more particularly how to equip certain sprite knights on your gear to get maximum value. But as we are doing a challenge run perspective on this game, the biggest challenge that you can have in this game is using a solo character. So assuming we are doing this like I did on my playthrough, this game's balance is extremely difficult. This game is in no way, shape, or form meant for a single person party playthrough. There was a couple bosses throughout the playthrough that I feel were severely overtuned. However, again, this game wasn't made for a single person party. There was the Gears fight, which was a massive wall, and all of the fights against Zemrod was a massive wall, and the Stout Sheep. Now that's only 3 bosses in the game that were the true pinnacle of difficulty in this game, but overall I still feel the game difficulty from a challenge run perspective, if using a single person, the game balance also receives a +1. So that brings us to 2 total points for the game difficulty options. Moving along to the combat section under game mechanics, this category gets a +1, so let's dive into why. The combat system of this game is where the game really does shine, as well as the non-combat, which we'll get to in just a little bit. So for the combat, depending on what type of sprite knights you have equipped, depends on what kind of skills you can use in combat. And then you can further customize those skills with certain attributes, such as you can add healing effects on your skills, you can add crit damage, you can maybe add fire damage, the list goes on and on and on. So there's a whole bunch of customization options depending on how you want to try and make your challenge run. As an example, one of my main attacks, it normally does wind damage, and instead of adding more wind damage or a different element, I decide to add a heal effect on it. So that way I don't really have to waste my turn using an item when I can do damage and heal myself at the same time. You can also move your character around the battlefield as well to help position your skills to hit more than one enemy at a time. So for example, you can cleave multiple adds at the same time. You can do a really big AoE that can maybe target half of the battle arena. You can target a add as well as a boss in the same line attack. The combat system is extremely good for this game, and it is a vast improvement over I Am Setsuna in my opinion. As far as non-combat options, there are your standard weapon and armor shop as well as your sprite knight shop. Sprite knights are essentially your skills, and you can think of them like gems adding onto your skills that give you certain bonuses and benefits, but that will be covered more in the menuing option later in this review. With doing a solo party playthrough, I think it would be impossible to beat the game without using the shops, just because of the way the combat tuning is for all these bosses, and again, with this game not being meant for a single person party. I think that if it was possible, you would have to over level yourself extremely heavily, maybe 10 plus levels on top of what I did, just because the weapons themselves give you a very big damage boost, but even then, if you're over leveling, it kind of defeats the entire purpose, right? However, if you were to use a full person party, or maybe two, then yeah, you can absolutely get away with not using the shops and have a pretty difficult time throughout this playthrough. So that is why the non-combat portion gets a +1 from me. Menuing is going to be the biggest part of a challenge run that you will have for this game. The menuing really determines what you're going to be doing in combat because of what you have equipped. Now, there is so many different types of Sprite Knight that you can equip on your character or characters. You can equip passive effects, active effects, buffs, debuffs. This really determines how your combat is going to flow and what you really like to do. Now, with being on hard mode, there's of course going to be, without a doubt, some things that are going to be better than others. There might be some cookie cutter builds, but with doing a world first solo run on this game, I can definitely tell you for a fact that you are going to be spending a lot of time in the menu trying to figure out how to maximize your damage as well as survivability. There was a lot of times where I had to completely remove all of my Sprite Knight procs from a certain skill and buy the same skill and put different effects on it to try and figure out what's going to work and what's not going to work for these bosses. It was extremely challenging. And along with the challenge, you will start to understand a little bit more about the way the Sprite Knights interact with your gear, and the more you understand that, the easier the game will technically be. However, the bosses are still going to wreck your face. And so the customization options for menuing, without a doubt, gets a capitalized +2. Moving right along into variety of challenges, and let's start off with the types of challenge runs from a viewer and runner's perspective. So I think, again, I'm a little bit biased on here, but also you kind of got to understand where I'm coming from on this. So when I was originally doing my first challenge run of this game, I always do research to see what type of challenge runs have already been done for a game so I don't duplicate anything. And there wasn't a single challenge run for this game. I went through like 40 pages of Google videos when I was doing a search, as well as doing hours of YouTube research, and there wasn't a single one. So from a runner's perspective, I was kind of in uncharted territory. There wasn't any guides out there for doing a solo person party. There was nothing. So for me as a runner, this was extremely exciting, kind of venturing into uncharted territory. Now from a viewer, I feel like you would get a lot more excitement or pleasurability, if that's even a word, of watching a Lost Sphear challenge run if you have played this game before. If you haven't played this game before, it still might be entertaining, but you might not be able to fully grasp how difficult this game actually is from a challenge run perspective. As for boss fights and special encounters, the boss fights of this game is naturally the biggest wall of this game in terms of difficulty, and special encounters, there is a post-game boss, which I didn't bother to do, just for the fact that I'm not really a fan of post-game content. I really like to do everything before the credits actually happen. There's something about it that kind of affects my mindset of, okay, well, I beat the game, so why do anything else? So the variety of challenges absolutely gets a +2 from me, 1 for each of the categories. Moving on to the last category, replayability. I feel like this one is really subjective due to the fact of, for challenge runs, there's pretty much only me who's done a challenge run of this game. So I'm kind of on the fence about actually giving the point for replayability. Part of me wants to say yes because I've already got a list of about 10 other challenge runs that I could try, but also a big part of me wants to say no just to kind of not have that 10 out of 10 perfect score? And also, if this game was challenge runnable, then how come there's no other videos out there of people doing a challenge run of this game? And also, replayability kind of comes down to if you enjoy the game and you want to play it over again, and how many different types of challenge runs you can actually do is really up to the person who gets creative enough to come up with all these different types of rules or restrictions or handicaps. And even though I have a list of about 10 more challenge run ideas, I don't know if I would actually do another challenge run of this game just because the game isn't popular at all. So the original challenge run video I did of this was received in general extremely poorly just because people didn't really like the game. So would I really want to use my time making a challenge run that isn't really going to get viewed? Probably not. So I think that's the main reason why I'm not going to give replayability a +1, is because how it's going to be received by the viewers of the challenge run community. But that's not to say that there is no replayability. I think that it is there, but it's just not worth doing. And that is my honest review of Lost Sphear from a challenge runner's perspective. So that brings us to a total of an almost perfect score. This is a 9 out of 10, and this game still is challenge run approved. Thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video, and please let me know what you think of this video in the comments. I strive to do challenge runs that no one else has done for a game. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Additionally, if you want to go above and beyond that, consider joining my Patreon or YouTube channel's membership with the join option next to my name below the video. And until then, I will catch you in the next review. Bye bye.